Okay, so let's start for the color sketch now. So I draw a sketch based on the different selection I did on the thumbnails. So I keep one layer with the sketch in the multiply mode on the top of everything that we'll be drawing after. Now I'm painting the sky, have an interesting texture just in the background. So I like to have this kind of mid-tones color for the canvas, so I can paint over and paint the lights. Also using the dodge tool, I like that to be able to highlight, and using the gradient of the soft brush, so I can keep the values I painted before and add some light. So I'm gonna paint some different layers for the clouds. In the background, less defined clouds and less saturated, and as I go more and more in the foreground, I will add more shaped clouds with more contrast. So I'm gonna add some different values for the clouds, more saturated in the background, and as I go more in the foreground, I'm going to add more detail in the clouds and have more contrast also them. Okay, so we'll paint some different colors for the clouds. So you look at that thing is, if you look at a sky, you will see that the clouds they have the same colors. As the clouds are more closer to the sun or more in the foreground, you will get some different values. Also because of atmospheric depth. So I'm not going to paint a very super realistic sky. Just have a stylized idea, of what could be the shape of the clouds, what could be the direction for the sky. Just keep it very stylized, but add the light direction already and have the kind of palette I would like to use. Also, the sky is very important in terms of colors for the palette you will use in your illustration or matte painting. So it's a really very important start for the mood you will use in the illustration. Okay, so now I'm going to paint the mountain range in the background. So just very simple shapes, not going for now into details, not going to paint the highlights, paint the shadows. It's just about having different layers with different values, and as I paint them, I'm going to be I'm going to reach the foreground elements and just have the value for the atmospheric depth. So as you paint, you might need to add more contrast, because sometimes what we do is kind of desaturated and we miss some contrast also. So you have to bring back some contrast, playing with the levels. So that's pretty useful to play also with the color balance and saturation, so you can adjust all the illustration as you're painting it. So now just blocking the shapes. I could use the lasso and follow the line that I have, but I don't like the idea of having something that is really too sharp, and keep that more human. And I like to paint more and have a less defined, silhouette for the shapes of the mountains and the architecture. Okay, so now I'm adding the foreground elements. So what I could say, looking at this image composition, is that we have two different positions for the contrast. We have in the background the line defined by the castle and the mountains in front of the sky will have an interesting contrast. So we'll need to work on that and have an interesting shape, interesting silhouette. And also in the foreground, as we have more contrast there, we need to bring some interesting details and play with the shape. Have an interesting direction in the lines. So for now it's just about blocking the values I'm going to just paint some highlights for the lake, just to give the feeling of water here. With the bright line in front of the reflection. Okay. So as you can see, I just kept one layer separated for the sky. So if I want to move back to the sky, I have a separate layer for that. And I'm painting some of the foreground elements on a different layer also. So now I'm going to block the shape of the castle. It's kind of a gray, mid-gray tone. I don't know yet what kind of colors I'm going to use for that. So I'm just trying to block the values, have the right values for the the depth, the atmospheric depth. Also adding some details for the shape of the silhouette. I like the idea of having castle also in front of this one, so I'm going to paint some ramparts. So we'll have an interesting contrast between the rocks, all the organic stuff we can have in nature, and also the straight lines of the architecture of the ramparts. So it will be an interesting blend. Also I'm adding in front of the castle a big rampart. Could be also interesting to have some highlights, from the sun hitting the top of the walls, the top of the towers. Also playing with the different values for the clouds, because for now it's very, very simple. So even if I'm not going to spend too much time on this image, because it's really about having a mood sketch, not going into the final illustration, I'm still going to add some interesting ideas in it. Okay, I think that I really need more contrast in the foreground. This is why I'm painting with darker values. For now it was really, not contrasted enough. So I bring some dark values, self shadows. It helps also to define more the shapes of the different elements. You can read more the stairs and the volume. Okay.